The Legend of Zelda is one of the most important video game franchises of all time. Several games in the franchise have gone down as some of the greatest video games ever made, with one of them being the highest rated video game of all time, and even its direct sequel is considered by many to be a superior experience. While not the first game that I ever played, the original Legend of Zelda was one of the first games I was introduced to, as it was always my grandfather's favorite game on the NES. I only played the original a few times when I was younger, but as a gift one year, my grandfather gave my brother and I his Nintendo 64, as well as the few games he had to go along with it, and one of these games happened to be The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. I played the opening of the game for maybe an hour or so, but me being, a dumb 6-year-old, I didn't really know what I was doing. I wanted to get further into the game, but I really had no idea where to start. Then my brother and I discovered that at home we actually owned another Zelda game, Ocarina of Time. My brother watched as I attempted to make my way through the game, and after a few hours of playing, I managed to beat the first boss with little hassle, even for me being a dumb child. But as any fan of Ocarina will know, after beating the first boss of the game and saving the forest, the Great Deku Tree actually dies. Instead of getting better, he passes away due to the curse that was put on him. You were too late to save him, but the Deku Tree knew from the start that he couldn't be saved. As long as the forest was safe, he could die peacefully. That's hard-hitting shit for a child under the age of 10. Long story short, I breezed through the Gorons and Death Mountain and made it to the Zora, but couldn't figure out how in the world to get through Laura Jabu Jabu, so being bored, my brother and I decided to check out the other save file that was on our cartridge. This was the first time a game truly scared the shit out of me. Because of the knowledge of the Redeads existing, I decided to just never defeat Jabu Jabu, and Hyrule would be safe forever. Ganondorf wouldn't have what he needed to steal the Triforce, and Hyrule wouldn't be able to fall into darkness. Me avoiding that responsibility and ignoring the problems of the greater world seems kind of ironic looking back, and I realized that after I had finally beat the game years later when I was 14. I realized this was a game about taking up your responsibilities and growing up. Me growing up with this game really helped me realize its inner themes and story, and when I finally got to the end of the game and drove my sword through Ganon's skull, I felt as if a huge weight had finally been lifted from my shoulders. But just like Link, I knew that just because I had finally done what I'd set out to and was back at square one, the end of this journey only served to start a brand new one. And while I sadly haven't actually finished Majora's Mask, I did have another Zelda game on the horizon to tide me over.
What if one day you realized that you just weren't meant to be a fighter? Yet the only thing people ever said was that you were born into a family of the royal guard, and so no matter what you thought, you had to become a knight. If that was the only thing you were ever told, I wonder then, would you have chosen a different path?
There is nothing that I can say that hasn't been said about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I bought a Nintendo Switch for almost the sole purpose of playing this game, and unsurprisingly, it is currently the game I have the most hours clocked into on my Switch at almost 200 hours of playtime. I genuinely find it hard to talk about this game here, considering the literal thousands of other videos of people talking about Breath of the Wild and the many secrets and experiences they've had with the game. Unlike Ocarina of Time, I don't have some personal life-changing story about Breath of the Wild, despite it easily being one of my favorite games to come out in the last 5 years, if not my favorite overall. Needless to say, my anticipation for the upcoming sequel can't be put into words, and Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity only added to my hype to see the conclusion of this game's story. The Zelda franchise as a whole is not one that I've played most of or even many of the games in, but the series has been a consistent part of my life in gaming and has given me some of the most memorable and best experiences I've ever had in a video game. Being a 35-year-old series that still manages to captivate and innovate with almost every new title can't possibly be an easy task, but I hope that this franchise is one that Nintendo can continue to improve on in the next decade, creating even more breathtaking games that give gamers something they will never forget. I want to give a quick thanks to those who supported me through 2020, both friends and fans, and I want to make more content like the stuff I've been working on for the last 6 months. These videos are enjoyable to work on, but they do take a while to make, so I won't make any promises on scheduling, but I'm currently writing and working on 2 other videos that I'll hopefully have done before the spring. Thank you all for watching and supporting me, and I hope to see you in the next video.